Hey, this is Hendersin, and you're listening to Tobin Tonight.
Hendersin, glad to finally have you on the podcast. How's life treating you?
Well, life's good. Just staying busy, working on music.
I want to start the conversation by asking you, you grew up in Massachusetts, correct?
Yes.
Where to in Massachusetts?
I grew up in western Massachusetts, near Springfield, small town, Buckland, Mass, and another small town, Coleraine, Massachusetts.
Okay, and what was life growing up in those small towns like?
Small town living, not much to do. I was big into sports, so I focused on basketball a lot, but just normal, growing up, did stuff.
Where did you get your interest in music, and especially the type of music that you perform?
I've always been into hip-hop. I had an older brother. He's 6 years older than me, so he always had, like, every new CD, every kind, like, he had Will Smith to Wu-Tang Clan. So it was a big range, and I would always listen to his new CDs. But I didn't really start getting into music until I was 19, and I went to college, played basketball, and then I didn't want to play basketball anymore, and I actually got kicked out of college, and I needed something to do, so I just started working on music.
And if you don't mind me asking, why did you get kicked out of college?
Just grades. I wasn't focusing at all and didn't want to go to class, and yeah.
What were you known for when you were playing? Were you a dunker, a three-point shooter, a rebound guy?
Everything. Not threes, but I'm 6 feet tall, but I can jump really high. So I would grab rebounds and I could dunk when I was in 8th grade. So I was just a high flyer. Was there one artist in particular that you kind of, when you got older, that you really drew to or really got influenced by? Of course, like Jay-Z, I mean, he's a legend, but Fabulous, Lloyd Banks, those two were big just because they had punchlines and metaphors and similes. And I just always found it so captivating. It would be so excited to hear a new verse from both of them. And I do that a lot in my music. So those two, definitely. Okay.
What is your, I guess, all-time favorite song or favorite artist / favorite song that you always kind of go back to?
Oh, wow. That's a big question. A lot of music. Yeah, I think I'd say Fabulous. I don't really have one song from him. But definitely his older stuff. If I can't think of any lyric or I have writer's block, I'll go back to any Fabulous album.
Okay. Yeah, see, that's the interesting thing, because, some people will say, like, Eminem, Jay-Z, that's kind of what my generation would pick from. But, yeah, Fabulous, I remember some of Fabulous' songs as well, so that's a name from the past for me as well. Now, of course, you have a few songs and remixes of other songs, such as an S Club 7 remake, a Goo Goo Dolls remake. Take me through that process. Do you find a song you like and remix it, or do you just kind of like the beat or the message and then decide, hey, I can do my own spin on this?
Well, I started sampling heavy probably 2 years after I started really doing music. I think I said like 2009. I didn't start really sampling until 2011. And honestly, at the time, it was just because I didn't know how to play an instrument. So I thought I would just flip a song. And it just kind of turned into my style and what I'm known for. But as far as message, I just like how it sounds, and then I'll choose what part I'm going to use for the hook, and then I will write a verse for whatever the hook, the subject is. Was it just that you were hesitant towards it, or you just didn't know much about it, or why the delay? What, for sampling?
Yeah.
When I first started recording and messing around creating music, I used to use a website called SoundClick. And it's where a bunch of producers can upload beats, and you can lease them or you can use them for free. So I wasn't even focused on making my own beats. I just wanted to record and try to write verses. And then my sister said, it'd be so cool if you could make your own beats like Kanye West or something. So I just focused, and 2 years later, I just started trying to make my own beats, and that's where the sampling came in. You wanted to just prove it to her, saying, like, you know what, if you believe in me that I'm going to do it, then I can do it for you. Yeah, I was up for the challenge. I definitely wanted to do it. I'm happy I did, because I think my beat fit my flow perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, so like here's my story a little bit about how I got introduced to you. And again, hopefully you don't take offense to it, but on YouTube, you know, sometimes you don't want to listen to all the mainstream stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but sometimes YouTube recommends songs for you. And I was going through a point of time that I was at my last year at Carleton in Ottawa, and they recommended Whit Laurie, and I was like, okay, this guy's pretty cool. And then the next song came up, it was a Henderson, and I was like, oh wow. And like it started off with the S Club beat, and I was like, this is S Club, what's this guy doing? This is S Club 7. The next minute it was like, oh wow, it's like this is better than what the S Club 7 song sounds like. And then the Goo Goo Dolls came, and I was like, oh, this is good. I started seeing some of the other ones you had, like All I Got, Catch Me If You Can. I was thinking like, oh, this guy's really good. And then I told my roommate, and he was like, yeah, I already know about him. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks for the heads up. Like, thanks for, like, telling me this. That's kind of how I got exposed to you. So do you get those kind of stories? Yeah,
all the time. Whit, I know, well, I mean, we've spoken before. We haven't met yet, but we go back, and we kind of, there's like just a circle of rappers, a group of rappers, and we're kind of bundled together, I guess. We're related artists on, like, Spotify. We're on Swaggy Tracks, which is a huge music channel on YouTube. And so a lot of people will be like, yeah, I like Whit. I like Henderson. Another artist is Abstract. You know, we kind of go together, so.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like, you know, when you're watching like other artists, sometimes you get confused in the bands. Like I've heard people get confused in like TLC and Destiny's Child, or like someone saying Eminem to Whit Laurie, and I'm like, those are pretty cool comparisons. And like, I'm actually surprised, just looks-wise, not like kind of music-wise, that I don't get confused in you and Jonas, because both of you have a similar style. You know, both bald guys, both with beards, and both making good music. You know, speaking of these guys, of course, you teamed up with Wiz Khalifa as well. Can you tell us how that was?
Well, I just opened for Wiz.
Okay.
So early in my career, locally, there's a venue. It's called Pearl Street, and then there's another venue called Ironheart, and they have the same owners. So when I first started, and I didn't have any fans really, I was just trying to get my name out. So my manager started a relationship with the owner of those two venues. And the owner heard my music and was like, he has potential, like, we'll give him spots. So basically, any show, anyone that came to those venues, if I wanted to open for them, I could.
Okay.
So Wiz Khalifa was one of them.
Okay. So did you ever get to chat with Wiz?
I mean, it was kind of before he was huge. I mean, the venue was packed.
Okay.
But it was early on in his career. And I actually walked into the green room to go get my coat. And I don't know if he thought that I was going to be like, oh, Wiz, like, yo, check my music out, which is not really my style.
Yeah.
I just said, what's up? And then, like, I went to go grab my coat, and I turned around, and him and his, like, boy just went into a whole nother green room. He didn't want to be bothered, which I understand completely. But
yeah, no, I mean, sometimes you just want to get in your zone, or sometimes you're just thinking, like, hey, I just want to kind of focus on me right now. And, like, you know, he did do well for himself. A lot of people like what you're doing as well. So, I mean, that has to give you some praise.
It's amazing with the internet. I just posted a video today on YouTube that kind of addressed this, because someone was wanting to know about my fan base. And basically, through all my platforms, it's like 130,000 fans. And I do about 2 million streams monthly. And I monetize 1 million of those. And just to say that is crazy. Like, if 6 years ago you had said I could say that now, I would say you're bugging.
Some sites that I looked at call you a rapper, and you said that you like being called a hip-hop artist. So what do you prefer, or do you think there's a difference?
I mean, I'll take both, because my songs incorporate me rapping. I think rapper, though, is just more in a box, and I feel like because I produce, and I'm not to say someone's a rapper, but I feel like I'm sort of more than just like one lane. That's
fair.
What I would say.
That's fair. Now, a lot of rappers are going to come after you on Twitter and tell you, like,
I know.
no, I'm kidding. So, you know, we mentioned about Wiz Khalifa, Jonas, and these guys, but who are some of the people that you would dream or hope to team up with to collaborate with someday?
I would want to work with Childish Gambino, Chance the Rapper, Jay-Z, Kanye West, even Eminem, but mostly because I would want to see how they work in the studio. I want to know their perspective and how they go about creating a song.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's all about learning the process and just, gaining as much information you can. I thought you'd toss out Will Smith. I mean, you and Will Smith, come on, put out Parents Don't Understand Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
If you weren't in this career, what else would you be doing?
Oh, that's hard. I honestly don't know. I would probably be doing something like a community outreach program. I've done like camp counseling and after school programs for teenagers and things like that. Probably something along those lines, but I honestly don't know because my whole adult life I've been doing music, so.
And lastly, I want to ask you this, and hopefully it's not getting a little bit too personal or too conflicting here, but of course, the events that are in the States right now with the police shooting of Philando Castile, what are your thoughts on just the relationship between the black community and police? Do you think something needs to be done?
Yeah. That's a very complex question. That's a good question. I think something needs to be done. I think people need to come together and talk. Cops need to be trained better. Yeah, it's just such a explosive issue on both sides, and I'm not saying it's any one side's fault. So just giving I think something needs done answer is not even close to doing it justice. But yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think now we can just let things go on as they've been going. And hopefully with everything that's been happening, we can really make progress and open up the lines of communication. Yeah. Yeah,
no, I totally agree with you. The reason I asked that, of course, is I'm a white male, so my opinion on it would be a little bit. I don't know the relationship because again I'm in Canada. Our officers are very friendly. A given story in Canada would be man gets pulled over for not paying at Timmy's or not paying at Tim Hortons, and you're thinking our police are a joke. But when you look down the States and you're seeing innocent black lives being taken just because of bad cops. Like you said, not all cops are bad, but we saw the video released earlier today of the 4-year-old and the mom in the car, and the 4-year-old had the mentality of someone that was 30 or 35 trying to protect their mom, and she was only 4. And I was thinking that's heartbreaking to watch because she should be worried about monsters under her bed, not a monster in disguise of a cop. Yeah,
no, I agree. Something has to happen on and you were saying about your perspective and my perspective, because like I said, I came from a small town and not many black people at all. So I've dealt with racism and prejudice all my life. From my point of view, if someone had a problem with me, for the most part, if they respected me at least, because I've had people that have said the N-word, that have just judged me, that have stereotype me, that have followed me around stores. But I think as long as you show the person respect and you guys are open to communicate, progress can be made. And that's kind of how I've moved through my life.
You mentioned about being called the N-word, and of course LeBron James just had that kind of spray painted on his house. I think it was in LA. When rappers use that in their songs, or hip hop artists, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's just them expressing a culture, or do you think that they should kind of tone it down?
I personally have used it. I don't use it really that much anymore as I've gotten older. I just think it's expression, and I can see, because like I said, I've used it, it kind of feels like I get to say it. This is something that I can do that maybe someone else can't do. So you take pride in it. I know every time I've said it, I've never meant anything by it, and I haven't really thought about the effect that it may have. So for other rappers, I mean, if you're going to use it, you can, but just know and try to reevaluate the weight of that word.
I feel like that's a good response. I mean, if you're a part of that culture, or if you grew up around it, or if you identify with it in some way, and have a good open mind towards it or have a good defense, I guess, in this world or the world we live in of why you used it, then, good for you. Like, it's going to be different Jay-Z using the word than Eminem using the word. The same can be said of when Bill Maher used the word and he got backlash for it. So it just comes with, I guess, the perspective and the background. Thank you so much for coming on, Henderson. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
That's going to do it for this episode of Tobin Tonight. Our thanks to Henderson for coming on the show. Remember, you can find past, present, and future episodes on TobinTonight.com, Spotify, and iTunes. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and leave a comment or two. For Tobin and myself, this is Jacob saying, thanks for listening, and good night.